on this tree, and then we'll look at the angle on this one. Thank you, Deb. See how this tree is much flatter in the back. And this is the comparison that you need to note. Check this angle down to this edge, and it should match. Again, parallel like a railroad track. And then this angle down to the front edge of this flare, it should be parallel. Rigid trees have been around since Roman times. The best part about them is if we can get all of the bar to match the horse's back as closely as we can, and if the bar has 178 square inches of bar, and just for simple mathematics, if you happen to weigh 178 pounds, that's 1 pound per square inch. And if you're riding centered, then that's 1 pound per square inch on the horse's back, and that's just an easy carry for him. If we have a perfectly fitted tree or a well-fitted tree on the horse and you are riding centered, then there is absolutely no way you're going to rock the saddle tree back into your horse's loin. Even a well-fitted tree with improper equitation can cause your horse trouble down the road. At Crest Ridge, we even make our own trees in-house because there's only a few commercial saddle tree makers left in the U.S. So even if you are going shopping and you're choosing one saddle tree and another, it can still have the same tree, and all you're doing is changing decorations. You're not addressing the problem of the improper fit. When you go online at crestridgesaddlery.com, you'll follow the easy-to-measure instructions that I just gave you today. And when you call us and you email us or you mail us your templates and your measurements, then the next process is we choose a tree that best matches your horse. Our guarantee is that when you send us the measurements and photographs of your horse, we'll make the tree to fit your horse, we'll send it to you. If you're not 100% happy with your Crest Ridge product when you receive it, we'll make it right. Recently, I've been contacted by many people wanting us to change our program where we cant the fender slots forward on our trees, allowing you guys to swing your feet forward in the stirrups. And I call this feet forward or feet on the dashboard equitation. And if you can imagine riding down the trail and you've got your feet forward and your horse spooks, the heaviest part of your body is your rear end, and it can actually propel you out of the saddle. When you ride perfectly centered and your feet are lined up with your hip and your shoulder and your head, then it places you in a centered, balanced riding seat, and you're more likely to be able to ride your horse out of a spook.
Okay, more good equitation advice there. So the trees, to reiterate, are made for each horse.
Right.
So how many trees, how long does it take to get a tree made for a horse?
Well, we have 19 variations of trees that our family owns. And if your horse does need a special tree, and sometimes, most of the time I can do it out of our stock.
Okay.
But if your horse needs a special tree, then it's going to take us an additional 7 or 8 weeks to make a saddle for you. Because, the Amish people don't have phones, and we have to do everything by mail, and it just takes longer.
So what can a person expect when they order a saddle for the time that it takes to receive it?
Well, during the summer months when it's too hot to ride, our wait time generally comes back down to 4 to 5 weeks. But during fall ride and spring ride, expect to wait 4 or 5 months sometimes.
Okay.
So.
And then you spend a lot of time on the phone with these people, though, making sure this is what they want.
Yep, my job is I start at 7 in the morning, and I don't start answering phones till 9 generally.
Okay.
Then I work phones 9 to 5, and then I do all my other fitting work for the next day between 5 and 9 o'clock. And not many people would be willing to work the hours.
All right. Well, you're doing it. And I'm sure you're making a lot of people happy, a lot of horses and mules. And
we have lots of good reviews.
That's all you can ask for. We're going to take another break. We come back, we'll continue our discussion with Crest Ridge Saddlery. So stick around because we'll be back with more. Back to Horse Talk Live. Today we are talking with Crest Ridge Saddlery and learning about proper saddle fit and how important it is to both horse and rider, and mule and gaited horse and all of the above. So we've got to look at some great video, and we'll get to more discussion about some problem solving. But this next video that we're going to watch is, I believe, about fitting for a person and measuring your saddle.
Right, measuring yourself to ride a saddle.
Okay, well, we'll watch this video so we can learn about that.
This is a friend of mine and a close associate. Her name's Debra De Silva, and we're going to be showing you and demonstrating how to measure your saddle and how to measure the seat size for the rider. Come on, Deb. The proper way to measure a Western saddle is from the base of the horn to the first seam on the seat. And as you can see, this saddle is a 17. And now we're going to ask Deb to get in the saddle, and you don't have to worry about putting your feet in the stirrups. Just sit in there naturally. And then you're going to place your hands like this together and place it in front, your thumb at your crotch, and your little finger should be touching the swell. And at this point that you can see, this saddle is approximately an inch too big. So if it's a 17-inch saddle, subtract an inch, you should be riding a 16. If you ride a saddle that's too big for you, you'll experience a lot of pain on your inner thigh, because you're sitting on the bar too far back on the horse. The closer you are to the swell, the narrower the twist becomes, thus giving the rider a proper, well-fitted, comfortable seat. So Deb, let's get you out of this Crest Ridge Wade saddle and get you in a saddle that's properly fitted for you. This is a Crest Ridge Sonata. It weighs about 18 pounds. We're going to put this on. It is a 16, and we're going to put Deb in this, and then I'll show you the proper fitted saddle for her. Okay, so put your hands down flat. Her hand is at her crotch, and her little finger is at the back of the swell, and this narrows the saddle seat. This is the proper seat for Deb. It's a size 16. It sits her up on the twist a little bit towards the swell, and does feel more comfortable, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Crest Ridge saddles are handmade by Amish craftsmen, and right here in the USA. We use #1 Wicket and Craig leather, real Blevins buckles, and real shearling sheepskin. Crest Ridge Saddlery is one of America's only saddle manufacturers that builds their own trees. When you purchase a Crest Ridge saddle, we're going to be there for you both before and after the sale. I'm always just a phone call away. The toll-free number is 888-297-1261. There's a wealth of information available online at www.crestridgesaddlery.com.
All right, that's such good advice, Debra, and the fact that people can depend on you before and after. Now, my question is, what if somebody, we learned how to fit yourself to the saddle. You're one person. What if you have multiple horses that you need to ride with that same saddle?
Well, it goes back to you can only ride one horse at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So we might just do something that's like, if you have both your horses might be Tennessee Walkers, then we might build a saddle that's built more to the walking horse breed as a standard as opposed to one horse, one saddle. So what we would do is we'd fit the heaviest horse first, the biggest horse, because if you've ever gone into a shoe store, you can't get your foot into something that's too small. Same with the saddle.
Okay.
So we'll fit the largest horse first, and then we might use one of those 1-inch pads and build it up that way, because it's easier to fix a saddle that's too big than something that's too small. But you can't fix a saddle that's on the wrong angle. It's just not going to work.
Okay. Well, speaking of Tennessee Walkers, tell us what the difference is between gaited and non-gaited horses.
Oh, that's a good question. Gaited horses are smooth, and that's really why the baby boomers are riding them.
Okay.
So if you can imagine, we'll just use my hands, and this is the left side of the horse, and this is the right side of the horse. Well, a stock horse at a trot moves their feet this way. The left front and the right rear work together. Well, on a gaited horse, they are lateral. So the gait is right rear, right front, left rear, left front, and that's why it's such a rocking, smooth motion.
Okay.
And if your saddle it really shows up. Poor saddle fit shows up in the gaited breeds, because if that horse is wearing an ill-fitted saddle, he can't gait. He might trot, but he can't do that signature gait.
Okay, so what would the saddles look like in comparison to fit that gaited horse?
Okay, well, a gaited horse has a angle much like the Arabs and thoroughbreds. They're narrower, and they are on a steeper angle, yes.
Okay.
Now, if you're going to compare a gaited horse, they typically like this, and then the stock horse is usually wider at the shoulder. There's a common myth amongst gaited people or gaited horse people that a gullet has to be larger in a gaited breed to stop the impingement, and that's not correct. The angle is steeper than it is. So like a gaited horse, he might have a 7-inch gullet to a 12-inch shoulder, but that same stock horse would have a 7-inch gullet to a 13-inch shoulder. He's